That's just all the cue I need. I'd like to call order the Planning Commission meeting of Thursday, January 16th, 2025. Since we have so many new faces, let's do a roll call of the Planning Commission, please. This is normally we'll do a quorum, and it's pretty obvious generally whether we have a quorum or not, but since we have so many new faces, I'll call on your names, and then if you can just say that you're here, and then is this a good time for them to? Okay, so we'll just say you're here. So Commissioner DeWalt.
Here.
Commissioner Blumenkron.
Here.
Commissioner Retzman. Here. Vice Chair Dickman's here. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Here.
Commissioner Madrone.
Here.
And Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Hill, or I have two options, so.
Hill.
Okay, great. All right, we have a quorum of the Planning Commission. First item is, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
And I second that motion. Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes to adopt the agenda. All right, the next item of business is pretty important. It's to determine the chair and vice chair of the Planning Commission. We now need to determine who will be the chair and vice chair of the Planning Commission. Per City Resolution 2020-26, the commission will, at its first meeting of each odd numbered calendar year, or when there is a vacancy created, elect a chair and vice chair and will hold office for a period of 2 years. The chair will preside over the commission meetings and sign all documents on behalf of the commission. The vice chair will perform the duties of the chair in their absence. Scott, I'll kind of turn it over to you to lead this part of it.
Thanks, Vice Chair Dickman. And I recognize the fact that there's 3 new members here, and you may not know these folks and who to vote for a chair, vice chair. So I thought we would take a few minutes, and also as a means to be able to introduce yourselves to your fellow commissioners. Take a few minutes and introduce yourself, maybe tell us just a short bio of who you are and why you want to be on the Planning Commission, and maybe the folks that have been on the Planning Commission for a while. Just give us an idea of how long you've been on the commission, and maybe any other nugget of wisdom that you want to offer, just to kind of give people a little idea of who you are and your experience on the commission, so that we can hold a vote and people know who to vote for. So, Jeremy, why don't you start off?
Great. I'm Jeremy Dickman. I've been vice chair for I think 6 months. Before that, I started on the commission 2 years ago this month. Kind of have been living in Sisters for 5 years, 4.5 years at this point. I have 2 kids in the public schools in Sisters. A lot of interest in kind of city planning. My wife is a city planner by trade, and so it's a topic that comes up in our household a lot. I consider it just an opportunity to perform public service. We're volunteers. We are the people in the city that are the lay people listening to the experts and making decisions on behalf of everybody. So I really love that there's new blood on the commission now, because that churn and that cycle gets as many eyeballs and ears up here looking at how we do things and making decisions as possible. So it's really awesome that there's so many new people.
Commissioner Blumenkron.
Art Blumenkron. I think I'm going my 7th year, maybe something like on the commission. Been living in Sisters since 2015. Done a few buildings here in town with apartments above and workspace, shop space down below. It's worked out pretty well. And have a little kind of a wood furniture, custom furniture business on the side. And I want to give back to the community, and like helping kind of point the direction, or help point the direction that we're going to grow in or go in. And been through some pretty interesting 10 o'clock public hearings in the past.
I don't want to scare them off, Art.
Yeah. Not-
Typically does
doesn't-
not go that.
Doesn't
way.
happen very
First 2 years, I haven't seen that.
It's only been a couple times in 7 years.
Yeah, thanks. Commissioner Retzman.
Rick Retzman, I've been in Sisters since 2016. I've been on the commission for a year today, or first of the year. And why am I here? I love Sisters. I want to preserve what Sisters is. You know, not necessarily the way it looks so much, you know, it's going to change. But, you know, kind of the spirit of Sisters, you know, it's a great place to live, and I want to try to preserve that as much as possible. I work for the fire department, or volunteer at the fire department, and I'm on the board of the Sisters Trails Alliance. I love the city and, you know, getting involved, and, you know, it's, my dad used to say, having a dog in the fight.
Thank you. Commissioner T-Walt.
Daryl T-Walt, I've been here forever, and my family's been here since the 20s or earlier in some cases. Yeah, we've just been here forever, and I really enjoy the planning commission. I've been doing it for off and on I took a little 5-year hiatus, I guess, or so, but I just like being a part of it. It's great. It's fun stuff. I'm a contractor. I definitely like the way Sisters was in 1982, but I recognize the value of growth and having everybody come see what I've been living with my whole life. So that's my deal.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Julia Hill. This is my first year on the planning commission, so first meeting. And I was really interested in getting involved because I wanted to provide my unique perspective to my community and just generally be involved. I'm trained as an architect. I'm licensed in Oregon, and I'm really passionate about pedestrians and kind of bike safety and things like that, and being able to just move around town. And I think Sisters provides a lot of that. I've been here for almost 2 years, so I'm excited to be a part of this.
Thanks. Welcome. Commissioner Rasmussen.
Hi, I'm Anna Rasmussen. I grew up here. My family moved here about 20 years ago, went to the middle and the high school, and moved back recently. So just excited, wanted to be involved in the community, seen a lot of change in the 20 years that I've been here or called this place home. So I'm excited to help, you know, Sisters grow, but also stay Sisters. I've lived all over the place for the last, you know, over a decade. So I came back to Sisters because it's a special place. I'm also a scientist and really love being out in the environment and hiking and just being able to walk from town and be out in the woods in just a few minutes.
Thanks and welcome. Commissioner Madrone.
Yeah, Eli Madrone. I have lived here for about 5 years now. I'm a parent in the school system, a coach. I own a small business. Most recently, I was on the Sisters Parks Advisory Board and chair of that. And I echo all of you. We're keeping Sisters, keeping the uniqueness of Sisters going as we grow is kind of why I got involved with this. And you know, it's my passion, civic politics, and I come from a line of people back home. I come from a small town who doesn't do planning very good, so I want to see it done right. And I've lived like you all over the West, and I've seen places do it right and places do it wrong. So hopefully that can help influence some of the stuff that goes on here.
Thank you. Welcome to you as well. Well, do you guys, are you ready to elect a chair? You guys go way back, at least 5 to 10 minutes, right? So, but for better or worse,
Yeah. Well, I think the vice, we could just cross out the VICE and just leave the chair on there.
I appreciate that. I emailed Scott earlier about that issue. I work in Bend. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I don't know that I would be able to put the time commitment to it that I had hoped to. When I joined the commission 2 years ago, I was working from home, telecommuting to work. I took on a new job a year and a half ago, and I've had to miss more meetings than I'd like to in that time. And I'm worried, you know, as a commissioner, I don't think I missed so many that I wouldn't be able to provide votes and you know, be a voice on the commission. I worry about that much absence as chair. So that's my concern and kind of why I'm choosing to take myself out of the running on that.
Well, I tried to throw you through the dogs.
Yeah.
Would you consider
You're
vice
welcome.
chair?
I think I could handle vice chair.
Okay.
I've already kind of made that commitment and I don't mind continuing that. If people want me to do that, but. And I don't know if there's any rule against a new person being chair if all the experienced commissioners decline,
There's definitely not, no.
but,
I told Scott I would do it.
I like Art,
Peter.
yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Art interviewed us, I think, most of us, so.
I don't necessarily like him, but I think he's been here forever. He's like the dinosaur of the
I-
group, so.
I think having a chair who's been here and knows the ropes a little would be helpful.
yeah, dude, Commissioner Blumenkron has seen his share of meetings. Hopefully at this point, you could probably do the script by heart. You've heard it so much, right?
I wish we could just record it and play it.
Right, well, that's what you're here for. So I would nominate Commissioner Blumenkron. I don't know how we do that, if we do. it.
Yeah, does,
I
somebody
second
wants,
that.
any other nominations before we go forward?
Yeah, good idea.
You interested?
No, I can barely take care of myself.
Okay, so do I
That's a Darrelism.
Yeah.
want to take a vote?
Sure, all in favor of Commissioner Blumenkron taking the position of chair, say aye.
I,
Any, sounds like sounds like it's official.
I'll have to move this very.
So
Yeah.
we vote you vice, do we? You're already there.
So there's Commissioner Blumenkron, there's a script, a meeting script, if you want to hand that over to him so that he can take off, starting with number 3, Roman numeral 3, visitor communication.
Okay. Members of the public are invited at this time to share comments on things not on the agenda tonight. Okay, is there anyone who'd like to share anything?
Not yet.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion to adopt or amend the minutes for September 19th, October 17th, and November 7th, 2024 Planning Commission meetings?
I move that we adopt them as presented, the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
Thank you.
Like,
Okay.
Read 'em.
Yeah. They're on both sides.
Are you going on Roman numeral 5 now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Under public hearing,
Well, actually, but we have, do you see Roman numeral 5, city council liaison?
oh yes, sorry.
wow,
Oh, now it's official.
what a moment.
Yeah.
There you go.
City council has a liaison with all its volunteer committees and commissions. In the past, there's not been one for planning commission, but this year there will be one. The purpose is to provide a forum for the exchange of information back and
Forth, yes.
between the planning commission and the city council. This year's liaison will be Councilor Michael Preeden. Welcome. And I'm glad we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just going to say a few words if it's okay. This is full circle for me. I served on the Sisters Planning Commission in 08 to 10, I think, or 09 and 10, back with Daryl, back in the old days. And here's how full circle it was. Back in the old days, there was a mayor, Lon Kellstrom, and he calls me one day and he goes, "Hey, meet me at Village Green." I'm like, "Okay." So I met him at the park and he goes, "Hey, somebody just quit the planning commission. Would you mind serving?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he goes, "You're on." That was it. There was no interviews, meet the mayor, other than this cloak and dagger thing. And the city's grown up since then. And now we have actual applications, and I've met all of you through these processes, except for maybe you. Have I met you before? Okay, I don't think so either. Welcome. But the planning commission is super important, and I learned that right off. It's, land use, a lot of legal actions going on, and it's important. And I'm actually really proud that we have this new liaison position because now I'm going to be here some of the time. I don't know how much of the time, but I'm going to at least start off most meetings being here so I can be part of the discussion if you want me to be. I don't have to be, but I do want to be a resource available to you because there are some directions of city council that are pretty obvious, and if I can help point you in the right direction, I might, as long as it's not something that would be legally challenged, right? So that's what I'm here for. We can have some fun while we're doing this. I know it's planning commission and land use stuff, but we can have a little bit of fun while we're doing it. And the thing I appreciate is that you guys are just here. You can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up. You're here. So I appreciate that. You know, I was mayor for 4 years. I was counselor 2 years before that, and I got 2 more years on council. We're going to have a good time. I'm going to really take advantage of this position in the sense that I'm going to be here as much as I can, so I'm available to you guys. What I want you to know is that we've always cared what the planning commission does, but now we're going to be here showing up too. And so I think that that's super important, and we're just going to figure out how this role works because I kind of don't know exactly how it's going to work best yet. Today's the first day, but you know, we'll figure it out and we'll kind of get some kind of rhythm, and maybe there's, especially in the workshops, maybe there's a little time where I can, right at the very beginning, kind of give you some background on what we're going to be talking about, if there is any, or not. I don't know. We'll just figure it out as we go. So does anybody have any questions? Come on, Carol, give me a question. Okay, that's it. So I'll be here, and we'll figure out how it works as we go.
Kind of nice because sometimes we're guessing
Yeah,
how the council is thinking too. And
yeah.
may influence what things we take up.
Yeah, obviously I won't be here for any of the, you know, public meetings. Once it's a public meeting, and especially if it's a, you know, land use action that could come before us, I will not be in the room. I will duck out the back. And if it's the last thing of the day, I will duck out the back and not return, right? So, but for the most part, I'm going to try and be here just as much as possible. I do want you to know that I will be reporting a little bit back to council. That's part of the you know, the information exchange we're going to have. Obviously, I won't be able to tell them things they're not supposed to know because I won't be here either. So I think it's going to be really valuable. And I really don't know whose idea this was, but it's a good idea.
I think it was City Manager Wheeler.
Oh, now I know who to yell at.
Yep.
Okay. Like I needed 2 more meetings a month. No, I'm just kidding.
You guys, what he's going to help us do a lot of is sometimes there's hot topics that are in the news, and we could hash them out for hours here. And like for example, one back in the day was setbacks for the short-term rental, and we hashed out forever. But the bottom line was the city council was very interested in it. And so it would have been nice. We kind of wasted 3 hours a couple of different times, but we could have just had him say, hey, you guys just push this off and we're going to decide no matter what. We're going to take it from you, which they reached out and they pull it, and then they can review it and make a decision on their own. So that kind of stuff is he's going to help with a lot.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just, if I need to help you focus or, you know, kind of get through something that's tough or chewy, or, you know, I can help. Looking forward to it. Anything else?
Yeah, just to add to that, I could see where, you know, especially when we're doing development code amendments and we're doing workshops, and oftentimes it goes to the planning commission, it goes up to council, and it bounces back to planning commission. And I think the council liaison could be a real good tool or ability to be able to kind of have council be able to portray to you guys what council's thinking was and what the discussion was at council, and then hear your discussion and bring it back to council, so that information flow back and forth. I think will make it a lot more efficient
A little
for,
closer to the target.
yeah,
First couple tries.
I think so. So I can see the benefit there. So that's the idea behind the liaison.
And I can always, you know, one thing as an elected official, you know, I can always help with public sentiment too. There's sometimes when you kind of just don't know what the public's thinking, and it's, if there's a way to boil down some opinions that you guys might not have heard as much about, or some of the, you know, background stuff that we've worked on before it came to you guys, there's a chance I might be able to help out. We'll see though. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's a waste of time. I don't think so, but you know what I mean? So let's have some fun while we're doing it though and not be so uptight. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Now we're on public hearings, correct?
Yes. And you want to go to this next script that is the public hearing script? Starting with number 1.
Public hearing script, okay.
That's okay. You can.
This is the time set for a public hearing on city file number TA 24-04, an application for text amendments to the Sisters Development Code, section 3.2.500, existing trees, submitted by the City of Sisters. The meeting is now called to order. Conduct of hearing. The public hearing will be conducted as follows. Staff will make a presentation and commissioners may ask questions to staff. Entry of additional correspondence received into record. Opening the public hearing for testimony in the following order. Testimony in support of the proposal, testimony in opposition to the proposal, neutral testimony. Questions of staff, if any, by Planning Commission. Closed public testimony portion of hearing, no further testimony. Discussion and decision by the Planning Commission. Testimony. Testimony will be accepted in person and remotely via Zoom. If you'd like to speak, please provide your testimony after you're called. If you do not wish to provide testimony, please say no testimony after you are called. Any questions should be directed to me as chair. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record, and please speak clearly and loudly to ensure testimony is heard, as this hearing is being recorded. Callers will be muted after their testimony concludes. At my discretion, I may limit testimony to 3 minutes per person. I would encourage those wishing to speak to keep testimony concise and relevant to the issue before us this evening. It is encouraged to simply agree with the point made by another person instead of remaking the point. For the deliberations, the applicable substantive criteria are listed in the staff report. These are the criteria the Planning Commission must use in making its decision. All testimony and evidence must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or other land use regulations that the person testifying believes apply to the decision. Testimony that is not directed towards applicable or potentially applicable approval criteria, even if a strong point is ultimately not relevant. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the Planning Commission and parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Planning Commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Before the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may ask the Planning Commission to provide further opportunity to present additional relevant evidence or testimony that is within the scope of the hearing. Disclosures. At this time, I'll ask if any commissioner has any conflicts of interest. If so, please disclose the nature of the conflict and whether the member believes the conflict would preclude the member from objectively participating in these proceedings. Start down at that end. Julia, anything? Daryl?
No conflicts.
Rick?
I have no conflicts and I will participate.
Jeremy?
No conflicts, and I plan on participating.
Anna?
I have no conflicts and I plan to participate.
I have no conflicts and I plan on participating.
Great. Okay. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the of any commissioner to hear this matter? No. Staff may now present the report.
Good evening. My name's Jacob Smith. I do code enforcement for the city here. Early on 2024, we were given direction to evaluate the effectiveness of our fine or civil penalty for the illegal removal of significant trees on the developing lot. Excuse me. Prior to that direction, we did have a code violation where a very large, significant tree was removed from a developing lot. We applied the citation and that resolved the issue. However, I think we've been given this direction because there's potential for the fine not stopping people from cutting down significant trees, especially if there is money to be made from that removal. Quick background on this code. Anytime a property goes into development, most of the time a developer, the person doing the developing, will meet with the city, meet with a planner, and go through all the regulations that we have outlined for that development. One of those regulations is trying to preserve significant trees. Significant trees are defined as having an 8-inch diameter as measured from the ground up 4.5 feet. I'll consider that the DBH of the tree going forward. And currently, the code is a $500 citation for that removal. So the violation that I brought up earlier, the developer received the $500 citation, and that was the conclusion of that enforcement. In order to start the research on this, we took a look of other municipalities around to see what kind of penalties that they were utilizing. The first step we were going to do was bring this some draft language to the Urban Forestry Board. So on May 13th, 2024, we brought 3 different options to the Urban Forestry Board. The first option was a $500 to $2,000 fine. The second option, we broke the DBH of the trees up into 2 categories. 8-inch DBH to 20-inch DBH would be a $2,000 fine. Anything above that would be a $4,000 fine. Option 3 was a $300 per DBH of the tree that was removed. At this meeting, the Urban Forestry Board was supportive of the $300 per DBH of the tree. However, they also wanted a little more flexibility and potentially more money to that penalty. They requested that an ordinance be drafted up in addition to the $300 per DBH, where the value of the tree could be assessed as the penalty in lieu of or in addition to. I drafted up language to that extent and returned to the Urban Forestry Board on July 8th. They took a look at that wording and they didn't have anything else to add. So with that draft, again, that is a $300 per DBH, and at the time had the option to add the value of the tree. We brought this this draft language to the Planning Commission as a workshop on August 15th, 2024. And there was no other information given on changing that. It was sent to the Planning Commissioners, or excuse me, it was sent to City Council workshop. And again, it was the same draft language, the 300 and the value of the tree. The feedback from the council was to kind of go in the direction of simplifying that fine by getting rid of the part where we could assess the value of the tree. So today, bringing it back to the Planning Commission, we have the wording of a $300 DBH for the removal of those trees.
was just going to add that, just to emphasize that this is for the unauthorized removal of a tree, of a significant tree. A developer could still request approval from the city if they meet certain criteria. They can't remove it just because they want to make more room for development. That's not it's definitely not a criteria. But if they can prove that it's dead or dying or it poses a hazard to either property or to other trees, that could potentially be grounds for us to approve removal of that tree. We usually ask for an arborist to kind of back that up to make sure it's done scientifically and it's not just at the whim of a developer. In this case, the reason why, as Jacob said, the reason why we're proposing this is this was an unauthorized removal, and the fee was not deemed to be sufficient to deter somebody from doing it. $500 is not a big fine to pay, especially if you open up more development area that you could make money off of. Is a small price to pay. So council directed us to come forward with this code amendment.
Is there any wording about like if they do appeal it or say, hey, and they're gonna hire an arborist, are we gonna hire another arborist to at least to get a second opinion or take our side, or,
You want to answer?
It depends on when that's coming. If a developer is working with the city and the planners, you could answer that question. But if it is post my starting a code enforcement and saying, hey, oh, no, that doesn't answer your question. I apologize. Scott, what would?
I think he was referring, when he's referring to when when they're actually asking for permission to get it removed.
Saying it's dying or something.
Yeah, correct. So,
Question.
yeah, because I mean, whoever, if they hire an arborist, their arborist is gonna come up with a recommendation that benefits them. So are we gonna hire another arborist to at least take a broader picture of, take a different opinion, or at least look at, you might agree with them at the end, but.
yeah, if it's a situation where it's not clear to staff, sometimes it's you go out there and it's pretty clear that the tree's dead because it's all brown.
Sure.
There's no question about that one. But if there is some question, we do have an arborist the city has an arborist that we can run that private arborist report by to see if they concur with those findings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question. How many times has this been violated in the past couple of years? This Class C?
Since I've been here, which is closing in on 3, one time.
I have a question.
Not an everyday occurrence.
No, it was the Woodlands.
Does the text amendment only apply to developing land, not already developed land? So, okay.
Yeah, good question. Just developing land. This is, we've dealt with the private already prior to this one.
DBH you identified as 4.5 feet from the ground, but then you said the fine was $300 per DBH.
Per inch.
Per inch. Okay.
Yeah, per inch. I think that's what he meant.
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
well, that's why I just wanted clarification because I thought DBH is just strictly saying
No,
3.5 feet at breast height, basically.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out what per DBH am I gonna stack myself? I mean,
If it's 50 inches, like a huge,
Right.
50 times 300.
right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I understand that now. Thank you.
Does the type of the tree matter? Or
No.
It's done during the significant tree process? or-
Right, we just only for this and the preservation of trees, we're only dealing with the trunk size.
Because you could remove all the junipers, in my opinion.
Does this interact at all with state and local fire codes? I think that question may have already been answered with Commissioner Hill's question about developing land or already existing land. I would imagine we don't want certain trees right next to houses if we're afraid they'll burn, catch fire to the house. Would that be an authorized removal if someone, or are we is that just talking about paring back a tree so that wouldn't necessarily?
That's a good question. We distinguish between trees that are on development sites that are under development, and then we also have regulations that address the average homeowner that has a house or has trees on their property and requests removal. Previous to a recent code change that we processed, you had to prove that it was dead, disease, or a hazard to property. We have since revised that so that people who are trying to do the right thing with defensible space have an avenue to be able to request removal of a tree before that purpose. It's just not a criteria currently in the development code so that is not, I mean, we could probably make a case for the removal of the tree in that case. But we would like to make sure that it's not just being used as an excuse to remove a tree. So we might ask some more deeper questions about how it might improve the defensible space of the property. We are working in our department on updates to our defensible space standards that would apply to development in the future once it's approved to make sure that the proper distances are observed through development so that we kind of not create new situations with new development, new situations that would not be good for defensible space. It's a long-winded answer, but Emmy, looks like you'd like to add something
Can
to
I
that.
chime in?
Yeah.
So for developing sites, which it sounds like this new code will apply to, staff kind of has an ongoing relationship with the fire district and the fire marshal who goes out there and looks at trees. And that fire marshal kind of does fall into that category of a qualified professional who can advise if a tree is hazardous. And he provides his expertise on if a certain tree is too close to a building and could be a concern with defensible space.
Thank you. And then one other aspect of this that caught my eye is that I do see the language of a fine not less than $300. Have we considered a scenario where we might charge more than $300, since this appears to be the bottom of the fee schedule?
Wait, you're an attorney? An attorney wrote this, and so I default to their reasoning behind that. Hopefully that's an acceptable answer.
Okay.
But it's 300 an inch, so even if it was only an 8-inch tree, it'd be $2,400.
And not less than $2,400 is my point.
You want to add that language in?
That's what it says already.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if there was any intent behind that to, is there an aggravating factor that's like, oh, this person. Okay.
I mean, could there be a scenario where there's a heritage tree that's 5 inches that gets cut down, so it'd only be 1,500, because you can nominate a tree to be a heritage tree, which becomes significant. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But aren't heritage trees usually older trees,
Yeah.
larger? not
I would
necessarily-
assume, but maybe someone
Unless it was
likes
a bonsai
small-
heritage
yeah,
tree
like
or something.
Either that or it grew really slowly.
It grew really slowly. But I could see a situation, unlikely, but that would be the only situation I could think of where it'd be less than 2,400.
I'd like to note too that defensible space usually doesn't indicate trees close to the house. It's the limb height above the eaves and stuff. So you could have a tree close to the house, but it just needs to be trimmed up so that it doesn't spark the fire up onto the house. It's not necessarily a tree close to the house. Just saying. Although the tree close to the house, you gotta keep your valleys and the gutters cleaned more often, but
Right.
the tree itself doesn't pose a hazard, fire hazard.
All right, any other questions? We skipped the item 6 in here. We're supposed to.
Yeah. This is just still questions of staff.
Right, but before that, we're supposed to ask, have we received any correspondence on this matter other than those items included in the agenda materials?
We're not submitting, nobody's submitting letters
Followed by
with the
letters.
public on this. That's the question.
Oh,
Right off the
no.
press.
Taking advantage of the new chair.
What do you want to say? I don't know if you got.
I haven't received any letters regarding
Okay,
this. No.
great. Okay, any other questions for staff? All right, at this time, public testimony. We'll now invite members of the audience to provide testimony. When called, please come forward and state your name, then address for the record before proceeding with your testimony. When your name and number is called, please indicate whether or not you'll be providing testimony. For those attending via Zoom, we will conduct a roll call to see who wants to provide testimony. Any member of the audience wish to provide testimony? Anyone on Zoom?
Here, I'll do it this way. I'm seeing one person in the Zoom attendee section. If you would like to provide public testimony tonight, can you please raise your hand, clicking the raised hand icon? If I don't see that, then I will not call on you. Okay, I think we're good to move on.
Okay. Does any member of the planning commission have any further questions of staff? All right. Close or continuation of the public hearing. If there are no further questions, I will close the public testimony portion of this hearing. The public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Okay, planning commission deliberations. We've now closed the hearing and must deliberate towards a decision. Our options are to recommend approval as proposed, approval with changes, or denial. When your name is called, please provide your thoughts on the proposed amendments and what decision you are inclined to make. I will continue going through the order until there are no further deliberations or until a motion is made. So you have the opportunity to respond and or adjust your thoughts based on the testimony of your fellow commissioners. Start down at this end. Eli?
I recommend we approve as written.
Anna?
Yeah, I agree.
I'd be fine with approval as written. The not less than language suggests like if someone wanted to really enforce a fine of $8,000 per inch of diameter, this language suggests that they could potentially. I don't think anyone would do that. It's just the slippery slope concerns that,
The wordsmithing is a little touchy.
yeah, it's just probably just my dumb lawyer brain. And I think
But
common.
it does, you know, if you had a heritage tree or something like that, you could have, you know, levy a higher fine because of that. You know, I mean, you could wordsmith the heck out of it and put all the ifs and buts, maybe this, maybe that.
Yeah, I'm not
Gives
saying it's
wiggle room.
necessarily a bad thing. Maybe we, maybe in some incidences, we do want to charge people more because there's an aggravating factor or there,
Yeah, absolutely.
that could be, but if other people don't feel the same way, I'm not opposed to the language. I think it's pretty solid.
Good.
I think we should accept it as is, yes.
Daryl?
I agree. I think it's acceptable.
Julia?
I also agree. Yeah, it's acceptable as is.
I think so too. So,
Am I ready for a vote?
yeah, really want to make a motion?
Sure. I will move to adopt the tree removal fines development code amendments, Exhibit D, city file number TA 24-04 by the City of Sisters.
Chair Blumenkron, just a point of clarification. Vice Chair, when you make your recommendation, you may want to say move to recommend to City Council approve.
Great, I move to recommend approval to the City Council for the aforementioned file number and request.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. Any other news or information, Scott, that want to bring forward?
Just provide a little update. I think I've updated you all on the UGB next steps. The next meeting of the steering committee will be January 30th, Thursday, January 30th. And we have Commissioner Blumenkron, Commissioner Retzman already on there, Commissioner Rasmussen, you were on it in a different capacity, so we'll have 3 commissioners on there now, which I think is okay. We don't want 4. I can't afford, but 3, 3 is the max, or it'd be a public meeting. And so we'll review the results of the open house, both the in-person open house and the online open house. We'll give you a report on that. And so the Planning Commission will also hear this information on February 6th, which is our next meeting. And then we'll provide some analysis of the different alternatives, the 5 alternatives, and we'll provide some scoring, draft scoring of those, how they score against the required criteria. And you will all get a chance to kind of comment on that to see if you think that the draft hits the mark or not. So, yes, sir.
Has those variations been changed with that recent communications we got from the owner or the developer that's over by, kind of by the high school there? You know, he wanted to, I think it was 50 acres.
Yeah, so I think what Commissioner Retzman is referring to is the application through to Deschutes County to rezone the property from Forest 2 zone to mixed use agriculture 10. And the stated purpose of that rezone is to, if approved, to put it into a situation where those lands would now be considered priority 1 lands in the UGB amendment review. So that'll be a point of discussion at those meetings, that series of meetings. We don't know what the effect of it has on this process. We don't know what the timeline is for the county yet, and we don't know if it's going to be approved. But we can talk about those things at the meeting.
Can we discuss that a little bit right now? Is that appropriate?
To what degree?
Well, I'm just like, is there any advantage that they're gonna have, like, as far as like code that's gonna expire or anything like that, that would behoove them to jump the gun and start now instead of just waiting for the urban growth boundary? Or
So the situation they're in is that since they're zone Forest 2, they're priority 3 lands.
yeah,
And through our process, we've identified a very large area of priority 1 lands that appear to be able to satisfy the need for the 250 acres. And so the only way that they would be considered under their current zoning is if we said we couldn't find enough acreage up here, and then we'd have to go to those priority 3 lands. So the purpose of the rezone is to try to make their lands priority 1 lands so that they could be considered now.
I mean, typically it takes quite a while, doesn't it, to change the zoning?
I don't know. I don't, it depends on what your definition of a long time is. So that's a question, I guess, we'll probably learn more soon from the county about what their anticipated timeline is, and that could factor in the decision of the steering committee, the commission, and the council on, you know, if it's going to be a couple months later than our process, does the group support kind of putting the brakes on our process a little bit to see how that plays out or not? So those are the questions that remain to be answered.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, I guess the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Sorry for saying it before.
Okay.
My wife is on. Yeah.
Yeah, you should only have like 1 try.